Okay, so this is a short video explaining my thought process with this concept map that I've been working on creating for our TLLP project, where I am looking at areas of overlap between the curriculum expectations for ENG3U, ENG3C, and BTA 3L. So my initial thought was I would put down all of the overall expectations for ENG3U and ENG3C and BTA 3L, and then do all of the specific expectations for all three courses. And as you can see, if I zoom out here, I've only done the overall expectations for 3U and 3C and one of the specific expectations, like one subset of specific expectations for 3U and 3C. And it's already looking like this. So it's going to be gigantic if I do the whole thing. So I'm not going to. I am going to continue with the overall expectations and just work with that. So another part of my thought process was looking at the difference between the 3U and the 3C, which you would think I've done before, but I actually really haven't. I've never taught the 3C course before, and I've only taught the 3U course, a handful of times. So I feel almost embarrassed admitting this, but I'm just going to go ahead anyway. So the thing I discovered is that the overall expectations are word for word exactly the same. The specific expectations are almost identical. So I don't really think I need to, for the purposes of this concept map, delve into the specific expectations, because if I look at the ones for listening to understand, and there are 9 different specific expectations for listening to understand. In the dark blue, I put a word that is words or phrases that are specific to the university level, and the orange are words that are specific to college level. And the light blue is exactly the same in both expectations. So what we notice is for the 3U, for example, when they're asked to identify a certain number of things, they're asked to identify a range. Whereas with the 3C, they're asked to identify a variety. So the difference between range and variety is that I suppose range implies more, but it also sort of implies increasing difficulty or increasing complexity. I think that's what I'm looking for here. Whereas variety just means kind of, more than one different kind, not necessarily that one is more complex than the other. So for 1.1, identify the purpose of a range of listening tasks would be, you have like maybe one fairly simple listening task, which would be listening for information in a lecture, versus a really complex one like maybe trying to identify the the theme or imagery in an oral, like a spoken word poem. I would think that indicates a range, whereas variety might be okay, so you've got an ad, you've got a some sort of online video, and then maybe you've got something like that, so that there's a variety, but they're probably about the same in terms of difficulty or complexity. And that seems to fit with what I've seen for some of the other ones. So, for example, under demonstrate an understanding of content, so again, this is for the oral communication strand, and specifically the listening to understand. So content for listening to understand, the 3U uses the phrase the most appropriate listening strategies, whereas the 3C just says use appropriate listening strategies. So The three C's would be expected to understand, what's a good listening strategy that would work for this task. Whereas the three U's would have to go, I know here are a few different things that would work. This is the best of those. And then down here it says, in terms of the types of text that they're supposed to listen to, uh, increasingly complex texts for the 3C, or difficult is another option for the 3U. So you can have I guess you can have a text that is complex but not difficult. So if you watched a movie scene, you might have a movie soundtrack, and you might have sound effects, and you might have dialogue. So that would be complex, but it wouldn't necessarily be difficult. Whereas you could have a spoken word poem that is very challenging, or they might listen to a monologue from Othello, and that would be difficult. Okay, so I think that's as far as I actually need to go for planning purposes in trying to understand the real difference between 3C and 3U. So I'm going to stop here. I'm not going to do any more with the specific expectations. Instead, I'm going to focus on the overall expectations, which I've actually finished. So I'll talk about that in a moment. And then I'm going to delve into the overall expectations for business. So the other thing that I was mentioning, so this side of the concept map is just the English expectations. And I can play around with this and make it a little bit more compact now, since I'm going to delete all of these specific expectations. I group together reflecting on skills and strategies, because that is an overall expectation that's in every single one of the strands. So I just group them all together. And then I have the overall expectations for oral communication, for media, and for reading. And sorry, this is writing. Media is up here. Okay. So in terms of where I'm at right now with my own learning for the TLLP project, I still don't know yet how we'll be able to bundle together the expectations, because I'm going to have to do the business side, and that would be my next job. But for now, at the very least, I have a much better understanding of the difference between 3C and 3U that I am surprised I didn't have until now.